All right, so here we are. This is my first boot of Kerbal Space Program in quite a long time, but somebody named Kruthi reminded me that this exists, and I decided to record a thing. So I have taken a base install of Kerbal Space Program and installed Realism Overhaul using the Community Mod Manager, CCAN, and yeah, that's literally all I've done. I followed the installation guide for that, but through the mod manager, waited for it to download the things. Here it is loading the very large number of things that have to be done to convert the entire game into um, Realism Overhaul plus RP1, which is realistic progression, which is for campaign. I might, or RP0, I guess it is. RP1 is a fuel. Which is like that's a different thing. My intent for this is to just dick around in Sandbox a little bit. I don't know. I was kind of thinking like maybe just pop up into Sandbox and throw together a moon mission and see what happens. I am, however, going to click this optimization to use 266 megabytes of my 4 terabytes of SSD. Don't care. And now we have to wait. The first time you run Kerbal Space Program after you install mods, and installing RP0 is a big mod, you have to wait for quite a long time for it to figure out these 80,000 patches. Because there's not even that much stuff in the base game. A lot of this is applying patches on top of patches on top of other patches. Because of the sheer degree of changes being made to the game. And then it has to load all of the new textures and all the new assets for the first time, and it has to basically it has to figure out the entire game on the fly on the first load because this is Unity and it was not programmed particularly well. This is programmed considerably better than the first versions of Kerbal, where they didn't even bother with texture compression or 64-bit memory, and things were generally not great if you wanted to install mods. But uh, welcome to 2025, or should I say like 2019, when they stopped upgrading Kerbal 1. Um, let's just wait a moment. Come on, Breaking Ground. You're a DLC. You can do it. Thank you. And of course, there's the part where I get worried that it's crashing and see what's going on for a while. And usually, by the time that I actually figure out what the hell it's doing with its life, it starts working magically, or it explodes, one way or the other. All tapping out and in. Okay, we are loading a thing. Glorious. Haven't heard this in a while. For the record, this is easily my first time playing Kerbal Space Program since I've upgraded my computer quite substantially. This is also, for the record, the first time I've recorded anything with my new graphics card, so I'm glad it's just working. Here we can see our wonderful Kerbals, Jebediah, Bill, and Bob floating above the Earth. This should have clouds, or at least it used to have clouds. Maybe they made that not part of the default installation. I don't know. I'm just gonna casually go into settings and make sure everything's working for me. Uh, Everything should be working. I think I just copied over enough for this to just work, but I'm just double checking. Yeah, I don't know. Let's turn. Yeah, let's make things look as good as default makes it. Or shit. Okay, good. That was the right button. Start game. Hi, Valentina. Fun fact, Valentina, the first female Kerbal in the game, was only released with the 1.0 release. Before that, there were no female Kerbals. Or rather, they were androgynous. There's only one Kerbal model. I do actually have here my old saved games, but I'm just gonna start a new game named Kruthy, or hello, Kruthy. And it's gonna be a sandbox game, like I said. And you can fuck around with scenarios or difficulty settings, and I don't care. Let's just do it. And if it gives me a tutorial... Ah, hello. Screw it. Sounds good. Oh. Ah, yes. Our crew will retire eventually in Realism Overhaul. It is also nighttime. I dislike nighttime, so we're gonna warp to sunrise. You also appreciate that this defaulted me to a lunar transfer window. That's pretty nice. Hello. You can tell that I've played a lot because I remember where the buttons are immediately after opening the game. Alright, welcome to the Kerbal Space Center, otherwise known as Kennedy Space Center, because we are, after all, playing Realism Overhaul and we are in Florida. This is not a very realistic model of the actual Kennedy Space Center, but it'll do. So anyway, we're going to pop into the VAB, the Vehicle Assembly Building, and we will just do a thing. Our untitled spacecraft. Alright. Like I said, we are going to try to do a landing mission of some sort on the moon. May or may not actually work. That is always possible, but we're going to just send it. So we're going to start with a crew capsule. I would like to put some parachutes on it. What would be a good parachute? Actually, that would be pretty sick if we actually used the right parts and built an Apollo spacecraft. Hang on. Where is the strip? There's a lot more stuff here than I expected to find. There we go. Sure. So here's our Apollo command module, and we're just going to use its actual parts, because that sounds like fun. How the fuck is that supposed to attach? Like so? That's convenient. This is a really good model, by the way, if you look at it. Which fucking one is theirs? That's zoom in. Look at that thing. Isn't that pretty? We need our heat shield. And our decoupler. Yay. Alright. I don't want to do Apollo too much, but I am just going to steal the Apollo service module and stuff, so. Here is our Apollo command service module, and we are going to stick... I should probably... Wait. Which decoupler is this, then? Yeah, that's the same one. Shut the fuck up. Alright, and we are going to use RCS blocks to actually give us the capability to maneuver our spacecraft. If we were doing this Apollo style, we would very carefully orient them exactly on the center of mass, so we don't need lots of them, but I'm going to play like a bonobo and just kind of... shit. God damn it, I need to find all of the buttons. Okay, screw it. I have forgotten how to copy parts, so this is going to be annoying. There. I am putting duplicate RCS blocks on, and these are basically just little rocket jets that let us maneuver the spacecraft. There That looks like we have all the stuff here that we need. See, now that we are actually playing Realism Overhaul, I have to be kind of careful and do things correctly. Because there are all sorts of different kinds of fuels and life support requirements and stuff that I actually have to pay attention to, instead of just, kind of YOLOing it like you can do in the base game. So this is me intentionally overcomplicating the game for what it is worth. Then it would probably help to have an escape system. I am so glad that worked. Hello, oh dear God. I would like to put this escape system on top if I can. Thank you. All right. And now, hopefully this will bind to our action group so that if we press the abort button, it did not automatically bind it. If we press the abort system, we are going to... Never mind, we don't... Oh, this is the wrong part. We are going to automatically activate this engine and decouple this guy. And I am going to mount on the brakes. Oh, man. Where are my parachutes? I swear I was just looking at the parachutes a second ago, and it probably shows that I haven't played this game in an eternity. Can I be lazy? Damn it. Alright. We're gonna have to remove the tower so that I can click on the parachutes and actually... Oh no, they're armed by default. But I'm going to set them to deploy anyway, because I'm paranoid. And, alright. Let me just... Yep, alright. Let's mount that back on, and let's start designing. So we are going to need a launch vehicle to get this thing to the moon. Do I want MechJeb to do this? Do I not have... whatever, MechJeb will do the job. Alright, so this is our delta V. This tells us how much we can change our velocity. So in order to land on the moon, we are going to need a certain amount of delta V. That's going to be about 15,000 meters per second just for landing. So the current roles and responsibilities, the command module is going to store our crew and keep them safe on the way up to the moon and on the way back from the moon. The service propulsion system is going to give them life support, or the service module is going to give them life support, and the service propulsion system on the service module is going to help them get back from the moon and insert into orbit of the moon. Adapter. Do they have the 4-pedal adapter in here somewhere? Probably. I follow. And just find it. I probably could do this. It would be cool to have that part, but I don't feel like finding it. All right. So let us find the decoupler that can fit at the bottom of this guy, which is not that. Docking port, heat shield adapter. Yeah, I probably should have played for a second to figure out what I'm doing here. Because you can't just use any old part. It's like this does not fit correctly. This also does not fit correctly. So as you can see, we actually have to care to some degree. And we're probably going to have to add fairings to this at some point, unless there's an auto fairing one. But first, let me just find the correct thing. I will need you in the future, but surely there is the actual decoupler somewhere here. Come on. Screw it. You know what? We'll make that work. We're going to need a fairing I really hope this actually lets me use the procedural fairings, but why can you do this? Okay. This is one of those annoying parts of the game. It doesn't like mounting things on the right part. So if we just set the fairing nodes to... Okay, I don't have fairing parts. Can we be happy now? There. Now 4. And what would be nice to do is have this. Thank you. Align that correctly with the stage underneath it. This should be the same size, and then we will make it the proper height to line up with the bottom of this engine, which is not that, which is this. And I also need to turn these buttons on. I used to have a mod to do that automatically, but this basically makes your attachments between parts rigid and strong, which is how things tend to work in real life. But Kerbal Space Program makes things floppy because it's funny. So yeah. So theoretically, this would be our fairing to cover up the... I don't know if we are allowed to see that, but basically to allow us to envelope the engine in an aerodynamic shroud. In between this next part, if we wanted to be proper, we could do something better than what I'm about to do, but if I just grab a docking adapter somewhere... Hello. Oh crap, I should have put a docking adapter on the front of the last thing. Dang it. Yeah, androgynous sounds good. So I am going to do some pseudo-deranged shit to afford us... Oh. Basically what I'm going to do is grab this and then put 2 of them there so that they attach to each other. And then... Actually, no, I should separate that. I'm going to put one on top of this tower. The attachment point for it is really annoying to me. Stick one there so we can dock things to that guy later, and then put this on top of that. And it doesn't look nearly as pretty anymore, and while I could do stuff if I cared, because you can do things like this and just adjust it a little bit. I'll leave it, but yeah. Sorry. So, let me duplicate this guy. And now we're going to have a fairing enclosing this. And I'm going to bring this out to like 6 meters diameter, because from now on, I am not using Apollo parts just for the sake of using Apollo parts. Oh, dang it, do I have to get rid of this? Fine. I'll build it again. So what I want to do is put a docking port at the bottom here, put another one upside down at the top, and then I'm going to build a lander upside down on top of that docking adapter, so it can dock back onto this. And we could reuse this. Maybe we don't need the docking adapters. Maybe the better way to do it would be to grab this thing, which is purpose-built for it, put it there, and then build on top of this lunar module decoupler. It is, after all, meant for that, but, you know. We are going to need... So if we're building it from the ground up, what this is going to attach to, and this is really deranged, is going to be on LMD. One of the weird things about, you know, Realism Overhaul, I have the same engine here twice. One of them is from Realism Overhaul capsules, and one of them is from Realism Overhaul engines. There is another mod to deduplicate this stuff, but I do not have it. I'm going to need to make that taller, and I can just tell. So next we need to have the descent stage, which it might be under fuel tanks. Or we could just build our own, but I found it anyway. It should fit like this. Then we would have a decoupler on top of that, theoretically. Oh, procedural decoupler, great. Oh, geez. I didn't realize it would be down there. That is unusual. Cool. Alright, so let's do that, and then we're gonna get the LeMay, the Ascent engine. We're gonna mount it on top of that guy. Since we are actually building an Apollo lander at this point, so fuck it. I suck at building pretty looking landing vehicles anyway, so let's just build the actual lander. Here it looks like we're going to need to bump this up a little bit in the middle. There should be some way to, yeah, auto shape it. And I don't remember how to use this. Yeah, there we go. No. Actually, no, that's... Let's just make this big and turn on auto shape again, and we'll design a stage underneath it. Fuck it. Let's make this an 8-meter stage, and I'm kind of looking to make sure nothing is clipping outside of these blue lines. You can see this is kind of close, but I think it is actually inside. I guess we'll find out. And then on top, we're going to put our docking port again. Alright, Apollo docking system, fits there, barely, kind of. I'm not confident in that, so I am just going to cheat and scoot it up a little bit. So I actually know that it's going to dock and that the command module isn't just going to bump into it, because that would be embarrassing. Alright, so this is going to be the vehicle that goes to the moon. By which I mean the one that lands on it. This side should be the hatch here. So I would like to put a ladder there so they can, you know, get down. Or I'm sorry, a mobility enhancer. So if we turn off symmetry, I'm just gonna stick a somewhat longer ladder than that, I would hope. It would be kind of embarrassing if they could not actually get back on the vehicle. You know what? Actually, let's do this. Hello? Let's grab this. Put it like that, and then at the bottom we can have a big-ass ladder. How big-ass is this ladder? It is mounted upside down. This is why we always check our ladders. Alright. There, that seems fairly large, but what we need to do is make sure that it actually fits with our landing legs. We could use the actual Apollo landing legs. This is one of the cool things about Realism Overhaul, is that it has these kinds of parts. Somewhere. But instead, I'm going to break with tradition and just use the default Kerbal parts. If I can figure out how to rotate it properly. Shout out to me for screwing it up. There we go. And I would like 4 of them in symmetry, so you can see this is how the legs are going to go. The legs are a little bit longer than the engine bell, so we are going to land stably. And the ladder is even longer than the legs, so even if we land on a little bit of a slope, they will be able to get on the ladder. And I am hoping there's not enough power or collision in that ladder to break it. I mean, we could be clever. We could be all like, oh, let's grab this ladder and move it up like this. And then we can replace this guy with a shorter ladder. Place them with like this, or like this. There you go. Now we're being all cleverful. And we are going to retract this ladder. We're going to bring the gear back up. And in action groups, we're going to make sure that this stuff is correctly configured. So the gear deploy when I press the landing gear button. It's kind of important. Good. I'm content with this. I am going to have to check this staging later. I am absolutely confident that it is wrong, but I don't care at the moment. Now, if we get another procedural decoupler, stick it at the bottom. Now we know the diameter is 8 meters. Or is it 7 meters? What size are you? The base size is 8 meters. Why is your 8 meters different? All right. The diameter is 7.2 meters. And so this is going to be our payload. The mission plan is going to be we launch this guy into orbit, into a trajectory that goes towards the moon, turn around, detach everything, turn this capsule around, and dock with this. Well, dock this with that. Then transfer to the moon, and this guy's going to detach in lunar orbit, go to the moon, come back. This is exactly an Apollo mission plan, for the record. And we are going to need to move this whole stack way far up, because I am about to start building some upper stage shit. So let's do a fancy, you know what? Nah, let's just do a balloon tank. So a balloon tank is a type of fuel tank that gets its structural integrity from the strength of from the pressure inside of it. So I would like to have a fairly large one, and actually, could I change the shape of this guy? Yes, I can. I can make it a cone. Or a... No, let's just go with a cone. That's fine. I'm going to make it 7.2 meters, and the bottom is going to be 10 meters, because that's a good number. And it's going to look like this. And then we are going to have another tank on the bottom of it of the same type that's just 10 meters. And yeah, we can, like, procedural parts are awesome. You can change, like, the coloring of these parts and shit. You can change everything, genuinely. You choose tank type. Like, there is too much stuff for me to deal with it. Here, this is the easy way to change what it looks like. Let's do fancy metal, why not? Look how many different choices there are, by the way. Like, I'm not going to spend time picking one. I don't care enough. This does remind me that I need to make sure that these are filled properly. They are. I need to make sure that everything is auto-strutted and everything. Yep. Because this rocket will flop around if I'm not careful about this, although procedural parts help a lot with both performance and floppiness, because there's less non-rigid joints and there's less stuff going around in general. Oops. And let's just pick this up and put that way up top. Engines, so this is going to be our... If we were building this more Apollo style, this would be a smaller stage, but this is going to be a stage that kicks us most of the way towards the moon. So I would like it to be a fairly large engine, but I would like it to be a vacuum-optimized engine. The M1 is an actually pretty good choice. This is a hydrogen-fueled engine, so it has very nice efficiency. And I'm wondering if there is a better config. So this has 430 seconds of impulse. We could actually be clever. You know what? Let's be fancy. Let's use a Nerva. So this is a nuclear thermal rocket. It has a nuclear reactor inside that heats up the fuel and pushes it. So this doesn't combust any fuel, it just heats up the fuel and uses the pressure from heating it up to push it out. And it does require ullage, so I will have to deal with that in a moment. But let's first make sure this is filled up with the correct fuel. And I should probably... do I have to change this out entirely to make it a... Oh. Okay, so let's use lots of MLI, lots of installation. Let's make it modern balloon tanks because why not? And we will fill it all up with liquid hydrogen. So you can see in here we have got 707,000 liters of liquid hydrogen. It's a lot of liquid hydrogen. In a vacuum, that provides us about 5,000 meters per second of delta V. So this is going to be, generally speaking, enough to get us from near to Earth orbit to the moon. Pretty sick, huh? Now, like I said, we're going to need a Ullage motor. What that basically means is in space, there's no gravity, obviously, which means liquids in a fuel tank like this are going to slosh around, and you need some sort of motor to boost them, just to give it a little bit of a kick so that the fuel settles in the bottom of the tank. So I'm going to use 4 of this guy, which is just a solid rocket motor that doesn't need ullage, and can therefore just give us a tiny boost in the correct direction. And now we're going to need to do another interstage fairing. Does this just work? Or strip? Although this does not decouple, tells me that I should also remember a procedural decoupler on the bottom of this guy. I'm not trying to make this pretty, I'm just going to do that, and we're back to this situation. And this one is going to be another 10 meter size. And if I'm going to start playing this again, I need to find the mod to default those settings, because I swear to God. Top is also 10 meters, and the height is large. Like so, except once again, we are back in the situation where 10 meters is not 10 meters for some reason. That looks right-ish. Actually, this looks right. I could be a lot pickier about this if I was trying to be absolutely beautiful about it, but I don't care. So now we're back to here. We're going to use a new fuel tank. This one's going to be conventional, and we're just going to make it absolutely massive, because this is going to be the main fuel tank responsible for getting us in the direction of the moon. And by that I mean in Earth orbit. So we're going to make it the 30-meter tank. That sounds rather large. And what is the biggest liquid engine that we have? Liquid engines are more efficient, so I would like to use them. Actually, Nerva 2 would have been a cool pick for this guy, but is it too late to do that? I guess not. Fine. We will upgrade this guy to be Nerva 2, which is absolutely massive. Never mind, screw that. You're going back to XE Prime. Sorry, buddy. That said, I should probably check. Is there a different variation of this engine? I guess not. Some of these engines have different models, like there's improvements made generationally, and you can choose which generation to use, which is pretty cool. Oh god, I have RP1, RP0, so I have to deal with reliability problems. That's going to be hilarious if it kills me. Basically, things are allowed to fail because this is realistic. And that's kind of hilarious. Is this really... What's the thrust? I don't know why I'm trying to be careful about the thrust of things when I can just stick this guy here and see. Up here, this is the delta V. So we're on Earth. And we can see this stage is going to have a delta V, a thrust to weight ratio, I should say, of 0.17. I don't think I need to tell you that is not going to be good enough. Good enough means enough to, pick up the rocket. You need to have a thrust to weight ratio of more than 1. How about one F1? That's actually about the same. We could use the RD-170, but that's also... Oh wait, I am so fucking stupid. Let me just look at these. Thrust vacuum 5337. Yeah, let's use F1s. If I load an F1 and actually put fuel in the fucking tank, yeah, now we can see the actual thrust to weight ratio is 0.39. So if we mount 4 of these, like so, we would have a thrust to weight ratio of 1.5, which is a thrust to weight ratio I like. But we are coming up very short on delta V. Because we need a lot more than 12,411 to go to the moon. I know the statistics are going to be wrong once we get past this stage, because the game doesn't really understand my mission plan with these upper stages, but I would like more. So I will do the only logical thing and make things bigger, because it is the Kerbal Space Program way to, when you do not have enough rocketry going on, just add more rocketry. Let's do another cone. Let's make it a 10 meter to 15 meter adapter. Let's make it big enough that it doesn't look hilarious, and let us use for this one... Look at all these fucking textures. Let's use that. It looks... Please do not do that. It looks kind of weird with this, but we can adjust that too. Let me make that longer. There we go. And we should also load it with the correct fuel. So now we have got a thrust rate ratio of 0.6, which is not good enough. But we are doing a little bit better in terms of going places. All right. Burn time of 35 minutes. All right, I need to do something about this Nerva engine too. Hang on. I need to like mount a cluster of 3 of them, 4 of them, not 2 of them. And just put them here so that I actually have a reasonable burn time of 17 minutes. No, we're not trying to be good about this. Screw that. Burn time of 8 minutes, 4 nuclear engines. Fuck it. And I'm going to quickly fix this whole stack just by removing this decoupler, because now I can just mount it like this and be all smart about it. Because I am no longer attaching the top node of this interstage adapter to the correct thing. Is there an automatic height feature? I don't know. Oh, brilliant. It just does it for me now. And I'm going to need this to also be the correct size. I don't know, for the record, why 11.3 meters on the fairing is equal to 10 meters on the tank. Don't ask these questions. It's Kerbal Space Program. Anyway, so now this looks like a fairly decent setup, except for the part where I guess we can mount another one of these. Damn it. We can mount another one of these in the center, so we have a nice cluster, an octaweb by Elon standards. If they all fire at the same time, this can actually pick the rocket up off the ground, but this is still not sufficient fuel to get us to go places. We are encountering the rocket equation. So what we could do, to be all cool and clever, and just show off how smart we can be, we can attach a group of 4 detachments like this. I will fix their location later. Put on more procedural tanks, make them substantially bigger than that. Let's make them huge, and let's make them like 15 meters long. All right, then we're gonna grab this, push it down, and then put another nose tank, another tank on the front. Is this the best kind of one to use? I don't know if I can control the size of these. We'll just go back to using procedurals. Fuck it. All right. What is this diameter? 7 meters. So we're going to make a Can I make just a... Okay, fine. We will make a smooth cone, actually, that has a top size of 0, a bottom size of 7 meters, and a length long enough to make it look like a bullet, kind of, honestly. And now this is going to be our side boosters. If we want to be super clever, we're going to... Oh god, have I been strutting these things? God damn it. Seriously, if you decide to play this game, use the mod, find the mod to do this for you, because auto strut is amazing, and it should basically be on for everything, in my opinion. I can't think of any time I turned it off, hell. And we're just going to fit these with more F1 engines. These, by the way, are an evolved version of the engine used on the actual Saturn rocket. I guess we could be extra clever, because this is the bottom of the tank, and do something like this. Where, oh god, I flipped it instead of... So now the bottom is actually the top, but whatever. Like, mount it on the bottom, and then make it, like, curve out appropriately. And then we can adjust this inward a little bit so the boosters actually look like they're coming out of the right part. And be all, like, pitiful about it. There's ways to adjust this to be better if you deal with the curve or anything, but... Anyway, now we've got side boosters. If we make all of these engines fire at the same time, you'll notice what I have done is enable cross-feed. So if I fill these all up with fuel, what is going to happen is, or now if I enable cross-feed, what should happen is that these side tanks drain first. So all the engines at the bottom use these side tanks fuel, and then pour it into the middle tank, and then the core stage can keep going already full, having detached the weight of these side tanks. Hopefully the drainage works correctly. What I'm going to do here now is just scoot these down so that they're kind of level with the main engines. And there's a reason I am doing that, for the record. And I am also going to need a separation motor, I guess. This is going to look kind of silly, but yeah. I'm going to put a motor like this in to fire at the same time that we detach these. And I am going to... Should I put some at the bottom? I should probably put some at the bottom. So then I also put some way down here and rotate them so that they point out. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. The basic concept being that when this rocket separates, I don't want it falling back into the core. So these rockets are going to push it away and down so it gets clear of the main rocket when we separate it. I guess these nose cones actually are meant to do that, but none of them are actually big enough. So thanks for nothing. Alright, now this has enough thrust to get off the ground. I am no longer confident in its delta V, so I'm not really sure if we can land on the moon with this. Genuinely. Because, oh wait, these are all staged wrong. That would have been embarrassing. But I would have caught it in later fixes. Because, like, you can see if I move this stage above this, the delta V barely changes, and I'm not sure I trust that. Because the stage delta V of 6,000 meters per second should not really just disappear when I do that. Anyway, like, I think that the staging is probably fucked up. What I would like to do, however, is add a little bit more to get this off the pad quicker. There is a certain property of rocketry. This is too small. There's this property of rocketry where basically most of your fuel is spent getting you off the ground. The slower you're going, the less efficient your engines are. And that gives you kind of a situation where if we get off the pad too slowly, we're going to spend a lot of fuel fighting gravity instead of actually trying to go to space. So to combat that effect, I would like to just grab a... Oh, geez. I would like to grab a solid rocket booster and just stick it on the side to help pick us up off of the launch pad. Like so. And now these four go here, and this fires at the same time as that. And that barely makes a difference at all, does it? That doesn't seem correct. Because if we just remove this, this is adding 0.5. So this is not good enough. These are gargantuan. And I'm not even sure if they are mounted to the correct things. Another one of the difficulties with it is figuring out what is mounted to what sometimes when you have these side mounts. Like, I can tell this is not enough, just looking at it on its own. Kind of figuring this out can be a little bit of a challenge, I won't lie. Just deciding how you want rockets to work, because this sounds very entertaining. But I am going to have to do some crazy shenanigans to make sure, yeah. You can see when I hover over this part, it also selects the solid rocket booster. Like if I pick it up, it also picks up the solid rocket, which tells me it is mounted correctly. Like it is mounted to the decoupler instead of being mounted to the fuel tank. So we push this down so that it is aligned correctly. And now if we put this here, we have a take-up thrust of 1.26, which is a little bit better, and that's going to carry us up further. So I am a little bit happy with that. And we have got a somewhat hilarious setup here. But luckily, like, the burn time is... I'm looking for the burn time after we separate the solid rockets to be greater than 0, which it is. If it was less than 0, we would be in a little bit of a weird situation where where basically we need to make sure that the correct rocket separates, because leaving a rocket attached that does absolutely nothing is kind of worthless. I would like to see, though, if we can fit these guys on here. We can. They are actually meant for these, I believe. What rocket is this? Yeah, UA-1208. So, to be specific, I don't know if this is the correct one. This is meant for this exact purpose. And, come on. We should adjust these so that it points toward the center of mass, and it achieves the same sort of effect. Except these are... I did something a little bit different with these, so we're going to see... Hopefully it doesn't explode the rocket, because that would be hilarious. These should fire at that point. All right. And finally, we're going to need some launch clamps. We're going to use these guys. And these are basically dedicated to holding down the rocket. This being Realism Overhaul, they need to be here for reasons I need to explain. These are dedicated to holding down the rocket while we are waiting to launch and while we are building up thrust, because in Realism Overhaul, it does actually take time for rocket engines to build up from 0 thrust to 100% thrust. That is one of the things that is not true in the base game, and that is one of the things that makes life a little bit more difficult in Realism Overhaul. Alright, now the last thing is... Oh, here's the Apollo-style launch clamp, if you want to see what that looks like. I guess we can also mount these, like, here, to be humorous. So now we clamp twice. Now we're really secure. For the record, this vehicle is absolutely ginormous. I don't remember where the... Oh, here's the button. Our mass is 10 megatons. For reference, the actual Apollo moon rocket, the Saturn V, is about a third of this size. So I have been horribly inefficient because, A, I'm not trying to be super optimized about this. I am trying and honestly failing to go fast because it has probably been like an hour. And I am also just not as good at building rockets as actual rocket engineers that spend a decade building a rocket. If you blame me for that, go away. Human rated, no, don't care. All right. So now the next step is to make sure that our staging is correct. Rule 1 of Kerbal Space Program is always check your staging. So the first thing that's going to happen is we ignite all of our engines. And actually, no, I don't remember if solid rockets take time to build up, so I'm not going to risk it. For something like the space shuttle, for example, they actually detach these clamps at the same time as lighting these rockets because the solid rockets on the space shuttle are strong enough to just rip the clamps straight out of the ground. That is the official solution for what happens if the clamp fails to detach. It gets ripped out of the ground. So we start burning all the bottom stage rockets. Then we release the clamps once it's at full thrust, or at least enough thrust. Then this burns for a while, and eventually we separate the... Which ones are these? Okay, yeah. We separate the correct decouplers that release the solid rockets with their separation motors. Then we release the liquid boosters with their multitude of separation motors. Then we eventually burn out and release this entire first stage. And we are going to actually not coast. We're going to burn the ullage motors at the same time. I pronounce that word differently every time. I don't know how to actually pronounce it. Deal with it. We're going to fire these at the same time we do that so that we can then watch this and wait for it to become stable. And then we're going to light them, burn them for a while, and then use this. We are actually, I am realizing, we are going to need RCS blocks on here because this is going to be in space, and if I want to steer it when the engines are not firing, I am going to want to have reaction control systems there, which means I'm also going to have to detach this, and you can see how this is starting to become complicated. I don't even remember the size of this guy. What is it? 7.2. That sounds right. 7.2. And this is going to be filled with nitrogen. Do I want nitrogen for these? Let's look at the GUI, because for these we can actually, oh crap. Before I do that, hang on. Let me turn this on. We can actually set for these engines what type of fuel they use. So you can see all the different fuels and you can see the details, like different fuels give you more power and more impulse. Higher ISP, this is in seconds for stupid reasons, but basically bigger number means you get more thrust for less fuel. I don't really want to use these. These are RCS motors. I would like to max out my tech though. That sounds like a good idea. I don't want to use anything that has O2, liquid oxygen, because that requires cryogenic storage, meaning it will boil off while we are on the way to the moon or doing anything like that. It will slowly be disappearing. So Aerozine sounds like a good time to me. That gives us reasonably good... God damn it. That gives us reasonably good impulse and reasonably good thruster power while also being storable and very... I just know this. Aerozine and nitrogen tetroxide are hypergolic. They will ignite automatically, so don't need to worry about these screwing up and not actually firing. So we have a good amount of fuel for them if we actually load it. I also need to set these to use the correct fuel, I am realizing. We're going to use Aerozine and we're going to use high-tech Aerozine because we're cool. So now this should provide us with a very reasonable amount of management of our attitude, and also if we want to relight these, because these can ignite 60 times, this can fire once. So if we do for some reason need to reignite the stage in space, we can use these engines to settle our fuel. So reevaluating this, we separate this fairing and we fire this to settle the fuel and get away from the old thing. I guess I could be intelligent about this too. We also enable this RCS, I guess, and then we have a stage that does nothing. Very neat. And then so this is weird. We detach this decoupler. I would like to also detach, where is it? This decoupler here, and where is this fairing? Okay, this, that, cool. Okay, I can live with this. So this fairing, which I'm just going to make sure it has pedals on it. Yeah, it has pedals. We also have too many decouplers, but that is fine. It'll be okay. This decouples, then this. I just want to make sure all of the things here, because I have designed this somewhat incorrectly. Please stop being hovered. I have designed this somewhat weirdly, so all three of the things here, the decoupler for the bottom stage, which exists for some reason, and this decoupler and the fairings all separate at the correct moment. Then we're going to just merge these stages, actually. Then we're going to, this is going to be a pain in the ass moving forward. Then we're going to enable the incorrect engine, the descent engine. Actually, I feel like we shouldn't do that at the moment. What we should do here is turn on the ascent engine, the service module, which is this guy. And I have a feeling this is that. So this stage is going to move down here, because what we're going to be doing is flipping this over and reattaching it. Actually, where is this guy? This should also decouple here. And then I just want to make sure this engine is under that, this and this are there. This go, what the fuck is that? I have so many decouplers in so many random places. I swear to God, I have screwed this up so massively. I don't even know what decouplers these are. We're gonna have to figure this out in space. Yeah. All right. Staging looks relatively good. We're gonna keep untitled spacecraft, but for the moment, I just want to make a demonstration of why we always check our staging. Because it is very common for someone to build their first rocket to look something like this, where you have a rocket, you have a parachute on top of the. You have a capsule, you have a parachute on top of the capsule, and because everything is low tech and you don't have access to cool stuff like decouplers to separate stages, you put a solid rocket motor that actually fits. Oh my god. Okay, fuck it. You put a solid rocket motor that roughly fits with this. And depending on how you set this up, occasionally you end up with the staging looking like this, where the parachute is on the same stage as the solid rocket. And if we try to launch this, funny things are about to happen. Because when we launch it, oh, do you not actually have the thrust to weight ratio? God fucking damn it. I just want to demonstrate one thing. How does this rocket not have the power to lift a capsule with nothing else on it? That is the most useless booster ever. Actually, this one is. I stand corrected. I'm sorry. It is so deceiving trying to figure out what is actually big enough. I should also be paying attention to the indicator that tells me what is big enough, but shut up. Alright, are you big enough? You are gigamassive. That'll do. I cannot actually put a thrust limiter on this because this is RP1. So this is a horrible vehicle. The thrust to weight ratio is way too high. If it was a real launch system, it would probably kill the astronaut. Don't care. And like I said, this used to happen more on old versions of the game. Modern versions of the game are pretty good about staging, but here, parachute, rocket on the same stage, and if we launch it, yeah, our parachute just got deployed into the solid rocket plume. I feel like that shouldn't work, but what happens is... Yeah... This is not ideal, for the record. And because this guy is a solid rocket booster, I can do absolutely nothing about this situation except wait it out. I could try to, like, hold it stable a little bit, but I don't have a realistic chance of that, and it just nosedives into the ground and explodes horribly. And as we can see in the logs, Lillian Rodriguez was killed. In spaceflight, this is considered a bad move. So we'll revert to the VAB before I killed that person. You can turn off the ability to revert, by the way. Thank you for your demonstration, demo. Now, Untitled Spacecraft. Some final checks. We could add some cargo. We could bring, like, lunar flying vehicle. Well, that sounds sick. Let's put it in the descent stage. Fuck it. All right. These guys come with jetpacks and some emergency parachutes if they bail out, which doesn't sound like a good idea to me. And you can go around and you can, like, there's some other stuff that we can stick in here. Like there's some retro motors and shit. Electrical, yeah, solar panels. Actually, I didn't even check. I should probably add some of these too. All right. Some electrical systems and some comms, and there's a variety of things that I would also like to add before launch. So let's just quickly do this. So what I was saying before is I should probably add some separation motors like we used here or here. I should probably put some of these right here, like so, and set these guys, or use symmetry so that there's actually 4 of them, and set these guys to go off at the same time we separate the stage, just to push this away from that so they don't recontact. SpaceX actually lost a rocket to the first stage having residual thrust and bumping into the second. And therefore, I would like to do something similar on the top, except I don't need something nearly as large. So let's just use these little spin motors. Or actually, no, we can use the... Or I guess we can't. We can use the spin motors, point them upwards, and if I can figure out which ones they are... Oh, they're these. And these are going to fire with this stage of all the decouplers, just to make sure everything is properly separated and things don't run into each other, or at least that is the objective. And yeah. All right, so checks. I would like to see well, actually, does the capsule come with does this shit come with like remote control systems? Yes. That is excellent. I would like to make sure that we have battery storage on all of our stages, or at least all the ones that humans on it. Yep, batteries. See, there's another mod that I need to extend the height of this building so I can actually see things. That would be really cool. This also has electric charge, so we should be good on power storage. I would, however, like to add power production. So we're just going to add some solar arrays to a variety of our things. Namely, on the descent stage. The ascent stage doesn't really need them so much because it's only going to be on its own for the process of getting back to the service module. And then we're going to add more like that. And I am going to map these so that when I press custom 10, they extend. Or actually, no. Let's do custom 10 for the ones on the service module and custom 9. Custom 9 will be once we arrive on the surface of the moon, because I don't know how long I want to stay. So it's going to extend that, and it's also going to extend... I am realizing that I have screwed up. I will fix that. It's also going to extend the ladder if I can find it. Let me move these. So they're there. So they are not deploying into the ladder. That seems like it would be stupid. All right, and this is also going to toggle our ladder. Cool. All right, so that solves our power issues, and you can use all sorts of different things. There's, you know, RTGs, there's fuel cells. There's a mod that lets you have a nuclear reactor, and I would imagine that it would be in RP1, but it's not here. Kerbalism. Oh, here's some cool stuff, yeah. And I would like to bring a communication system. That seems significant. So let's put a pair of high gain antennas just because I like symmetry, and generally dislike having imbalances in weight. How could I orient this nicely? Me struggling with symmetry. That works. All right. So there's going to be 2 of those on the service module, and this is kind of weird placement for it. I am also going to place, if we have a nice one of these, I'm also going to place 2 of these for redundancy. These are low gain antennas, but if something happens to our high gain antennas, these will be rather nice. And then I believe this already has an antenna on it. Yeah, it has an extend antennas button. Which, by the way, I'm going to map the antennas to extend on 10, which is going to be kind of our toggle antenna. That's our I am now in space button. So, hello, toggle antenna. So basically, we have communications with all the stages that matter. The descent stage is never going to be without the ascent stage, so this antenna will cover both. And then the command module is only going to be without the service module during reentry when we can't use the radio anyway, so this is going to be fine. And that feels like it should be enough. Somewhere there is a button to check life support. I don't know where the button is. That is kind of a problem in my mind because, oh, here, I found the button, guys. So they can live perpetually in terms of food. I feel like that is incorrect. I do not know. Oh, okay. The launch clamps supply 80 liters per second of food somehow to the command module that's all the way up there in the roof from down there. Don't know how that works. They are water, infinite, oxygen, infinite. Yeah, you know what? I'm not trusting this. I am going to remove the clamps real quick and make sure that the astronauts are not going to starve to death. Okay, so food they have enough for 11 days. Water they have enough for forever. I'm happy with that. Air they have enough for 2 weeks. All right, that's not ideal, honestly. God damn it. Hello. And these need to go on their own stage. It goes here. That is not great. I feel like I have probably missed something up here in the service module. There's the button. Like, can I look inside of you? Select SimBay configuration. Oh, historical. Never mind. Do you have empty space? You have some. That. I remember seeing a view of this where, like, the panel was open so we could see inside the service module, and I think there was room for tanks in there, which would be historically accurate. That is how it worked, but I am not seeing that button. So what we could do, since this is not aerodynamic, is oh, cool. So I'm going to stick one of these on here if I know how this works. And I am just going to stick some tanks on the side of this with the intention, yeah, maybe like if I put, oh, these don't fit radially. Why do these not fit radially? This is ugly, but I'm just going to put these on the sides like so, maybe a little bit lower so they don't fuck with the antenna, like here. And I'm going to fill them with food, which does not work the way I thought it would. Well, that's rude. Hey. Let me fill you with food. Oh, do I have to set this to be like, oh, it probably can't store food in it. Or can it? That can store a bunch of stuff. See, this is one of those annoying parts where I have to figure out what type of tank can actually fit fucking food. And that is why people don't generally play with things like this modular tank service module. Oh dear God. No, you know what? We're just gonna go back to procedural tanks because that scares me. There are too many options. Can I make you just like a ball? Shape. Truss. That is also weird. Fillet cylinder. Does this work? You know what? I can live with this. And hopefully I can fill this with life support supplies. All right. And now if I once again detach our launch clamps, dear God. Oh wow, I have to use the undo button for that one. Nope. I keep forgetting the button to actually pick up the entire rocket. I guess it is shift-click for the record. I cannot physically lift it above the floor. Whatever. So I'm gonna... Actually, I can leave these on, and I think I can just turn off these fuel pumps. This pump stopped. And it doesn't actually work. God damn it. Fine. You can have your pumps. Oh wait, do I need to disable all of the pumps? I have never played with the mods that work this way before. This is new to me. And this does not appear to be setting this correctly. Okay, whatever. We're gonna do it the old-fashioned way and break the staging. So now we can last for 23 days on food. We can last forever on water. We can last for 26 days on air. I am happy with that. The actual Apollo missions did not last nearly that long. I seriously doubt we're going to spend that much time. So I am happy with life support. The last thing that I want to check, and I've been doing things for a long time here. I don't know why they have the lunar flying vehicle and not the lunar rover, now that I think about it. Anyway, I would like to stick some science experiments on here. Like, you know, let's put a thermometer on and a barometer in case we want to see the air pressure on the moon. And, you know, fuck it. Let's just stick a bunch of crap onto the sides of our lander. Just for shits and giggles, you know? What's the point of going to the moon if we're not taking all sorts of gear with us? All right, that's enough. That is enough stuff for style. And let us try to fly this thing. And I have just realized the clamps are wrong again, and I'm going to have to fix them. Hang on. Okay, just for fun, because I also need to fix the lunar transfer. This is what happens if you launch it without fixing the clamps. Yeah, the rocket just falls back onto the pad. And then weirdness happens. And also my fairings aren't here. Look at how goofy this looks up top. Actually, just look how goofy this looks in general, to be honest, but... Alright, anyway, we are going back to the VAB. So, I'm going to take one more look at the fairings. I don't know why they're broken. I am not going to spend more than a few seconds trying to fix it. I legitimately... I don't understand why this is not working. There is no, you know, make this exist button. so whatever. Yeah, no idea why there's no fairing. It's kind of rude. There is presumably a way to fix that. I am also going to move these two things off. All right, now we're going to save it again. We're going to leave. And what we're going to do, so because the moon has the orbit of the moon is at an angle to the Earth, so we need to wait for a launch window, which they have helpfully added with Kerbal Alarm Clock, so we can just press this warp button, and it will take us to 60 seconds before the correct time to launch, which happens to be at night, which is going to look kind of cool. Oh dear God, look at all of these. So we're going to launch an untitled spacecraft. I need to hire crew. God damn it. I would like to take some scientist with me. I would like to take some engineer with me. All right, cool. The default four people, the people in orange are special, by the way, but they are all fucking pilots. I would like to fly people that are not pilots. Okay, I can have three pilots. So we can have three pilots, a scientist, and an engineer. And we're going to take a pilot and an engineer down on the ascent stage, I guess. All right, launch button. By the way, there's a good chance I'm going to cut this video using video editing, or it's all going to explode. Insufficient avionics. Oh, come on. I have to fix that. All right. New things to fix. Hooray. I don't know why it exploded. More than likely I screwed something up. Actually, that's incredibly likely, but I didn't screw something up the first time. More avionics means, for some reason, I cannot control this entire vehicle. So, I am going to stick a procedural avionics unit in here to the bottom of the first stage. Modern avionics. Cool. Uh-huh. Can I just say make big? And uh-huh. Yep, that makes sense. Can I set the controllable mass to like 200 tons? I can. Excellent. All right, cool. Now I should actually have control of the goddamn vehicle. That's annoying. And since we're doing that, actually it has a shitload of electric power, but I am going to add a couple of these antennas to it, just for the fun of it, so that we could theoretically fly this thing back and soft land it or shit, or at least watch it happen. Save. Now I'm going to put crew back on board. It actually preserved the crew from before, which is excellent. We're going to click launch. Will it explode? What I was saying before is I was probably going to use video editing to chop this up because it's going to be long as shit. I heard a bad noise. Why bad noise? Why are you separating stage 13? What the fuck are you doing? I'm probably going to cut this up into pieces with my magical video editing skills. So this might be one long recording session for me, but it's probably going to be like there's going to be a cut somewhere when I finally put it on the launch pad, or maybe it's going to have already cut by now when I went to launch pad and it immediately exploded. I don't know. It'll be kind of funny. Okay. Okay, real cool. We are doing the thing where we are assholes. And the game is like, oh, the vehicle is below the ground. All right, real cool. All right, you are no longer below the ground. This staging is throwing me, but it looks right. I don't know. Let's fly it. So yeah, there's probably going to be a cut somewhere before I actually fly it, and then there's going to be a cut of going towards the moon, and then a cut of... This is going to be a whole fucking series at this point. I don't know. Why? What what is separating here? I would love to know. I am going to have to fucking do a pad test, aren't I? Uh, Something is detaching from the vehicle. Like, I have a feeling that I know what, but I need to actually see it to know what. So I'm going to have to warp to sunrise because we're missing our launch window. Then I'm going to warp a little bit more because I would really like to warp to like here where I can see. Pick a vehicle that is not, one of the preloaded ones, which are, by the way, all invalid because of Realism Overhaul, disabling those parts, or changing the names or whatever. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if you caught that, but the stage in between these two separates. So we can see now, we can actually switch to the other. We have control of this because of the probe core I installed. We do not have control of this, so I'm going to have to install more avionics somewhere. Great. Very, very cool. But here, we could actually just launch this. Are you running? You are not running. Everything is currently broken. Alright, never mind. See, Realism Overhaul is such a pain in the ass. There are so many goddamn things you have to manage instead of just throw Rocket together. And genuinely, I shouldn't have been so ambitious to run this in Realism Overhaul. I should have just done it normally, but no. Have to be a dipshit. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick a normal decoupler. By normal, I mean a tiny decoupler. Maybe not that tiny. I just want a decoupler that fits in here. Yes. We're going to mount this giant fairing to that guy. We're then going to make sure that this decoupler fires at the appropriate time, which is here. And hopefully that will strengthen the connection a little bit so that it doesn't just fucking collapse instantaneously. Which it might still do, because for all I know, the reason that it's breaking is that the fairings don't exist. And I'm going to have to actually deal with fairings, and this is like... Playing Realism Overhaul is all about this bullshit where things go wrong and you have to keep fixing them and you enjoy it because it is realistic and you are making things difficult for yourself on purpose. That is like the point of Realism Overhaul. And that is why if you are playing for the first time, you should not play it because Realism Overhaul is fucking hard because it is actual goddamn rocket science to as great of an extent as you can get out of a video game. I heard the bad noise. Yeah. All right. Actually, I should have checked what part actually came off, but is it this? Another problem is I haven't played this in a long time. I don't remember all the gotchas, and they have added new gotchas because all the mods have been updated multiple times over the many years since I played like this. So, okay, it's stable. I don't know why the fairings don't work. That is really annoying, actually. But we have a working rocket. So just, test flight. We can build it up to full thrust. Or not. That was not full thrust. But we detach it. And we do not have the correct amount of avionics again. But it flies. I actually think these rocket prolooms are really pretty. I'm pretty sure those are modded. While you should not play this with Realism Overhaul, you should absolutely play with some sort of mods. Mods make this game much better. But hell, just to test it, let's abort the rocket. Wow, what a great abort. This abort tower is worthless. That's the button you're supposed to use. Good to know, I will fix that. Theoretically, you would do that, and then you would be able to deploy the parachutes, which will deploy at some point. Consider this a live flight test of the abort system. Cool. All right, that's two things that need to be fixed. But at least we have sort of demonstrated we can successfully abort the rocket, because this is a safe landing speed. So let's go fix the abort system, and let's go fix the goddamn avionics again, twice actually, because I forgot to fix the avionics on the second stage. Ugh. I hate the avionics mechanic, genuinely, but I don't want to complain too much about that. So anyway, can I even select the abort motor down here? I can, just because I'm cool. All right, this is going to detach here and activate the jettison motor. Then on abort, we're going to activate pitch motor. Fucking A. We're going to activate the escape motor, and screw it, I guess we can't activate that. And the canards. All right. Nifty. And I should also set it, if we still have this thing in space, I will fire the jettison motor and I will decouple it to get it the hell away in case I accidentally left it on that long, which I should not do. Cool. So that's that fix, and then I need to add on here. Oh, no, this is the wrong stage. I need to add in here. I guess we can do this. I guess it can go here. Procedural avionics. This is going to be of size, I'm guessing 7.2 is going to be the size. Yeah. It's going to be a size 7.2. That feels like a good size. And then we're going to fix it so that we can control, I don't fucking know. How much do we need to control? Oops. How much do we need to control? Good enough. How heavy is this? This needs to control 200 tons. I just completely screwed up. I'm going to set this to control 250 tons. And then we're going to reattach this guy. And we're going to set this guy to control 10 500 tons. There we go. So now we should actually have our goddamn avionics. Double check the crew. You can see the game's really starting not to like the vehicle very much. But I would like my engineer back, thank you. And cargo, I would like to put... Fuck it, we can have two on the stage, I don't care. Save, launch. I think we might actually take the engineer down to the service. I think we need them to deploy the flying vehicle, and flying vehicle sounds cool. All right, now this is here. Is my fuel going to boil away if I press warp? No. My waste is... Should I fix that? Probably. Let's just recover this, and we will refly it. I played with a mod once that was construction time. Basically, rockets actually take time to build and actually take time to roll out to the launch pad once you've decided you want to fly it. And it is kind of hellish. I don't like that mod. It's realistic as hell, because pressing a button 50 seconds before my launch window and being able to make it is not realistic, but as I've already complained about a decent amount, I feel, screw realism. All right. So I don't know how to launch into the correct inclination. I am totally winging this, and I am not entirely sure what I am doing. I don't remember the inclination of Kennedy Space Center. I don't know any of this shit, but there we go. So I'm going to turn on stability assist, basically have the pilot actually fly the rocket instead of letting stuff happen, and we're going to ignite it a few seconds before so it reaches full thrust and we can launch it at the proper time and actually start to go to the moon, hopefully. There is another mod that makes these actually light up. That would look really awesome. I should find that too. And now I'm going to pitch over just a little bit and set ourselves to run prograde hold. Actually, no. I went a little bit too aggressive on that turn, so we're going to hold our nose a little bit high for a while longer. Basically, let's say until we get to 125 meters per second. And then we can turn on to steer prograde, which means point the nose in the direction the rocket is going, which is going to have gravity slowly turn us over and help us actually get enough sideways velocity to fly. Can I have... I am very much not happy about this. Hang on. Need to set that back, and I need information to fly like this. This is the window I really would have liked to have when I was planning get the rocket up. So now I'm lofting myself up a little bit because we're still too low in the atmosphere for my liking. Like, look how close we still are to the Space Center, and look how far sideways we're slipping. I kind of overestimated our thrust to weight ratio. If I was smart, I would be throttling down somewhat. But we're about to burn out of our solid boosters, whichever one those are. Seriously, these guys. Yeah, those are burning out. Oh, geez. Oh, that was a mistake. I pressed the wrong button. But you can see the ascent stage is actually burnt out here. Yeah. So this is what happens when you screw up a launch. What has happened is we burnt up some of the parts in the middle, and that caused us to go off course, and the rocket broke into pieces. Luckily, we have tested the abort system. So we could just watch this thing float back home. This should... Why do I not have orbit info? Why does that not work? We're going to reach an altitude of 29 kilometers, which is here, before we gently fly down back to where we should be, and land safely because I actually paid attention to my ascent stage. Okay. I'm going to go back to vehicle assembly right quick. And I need to check the throttle range on the F1 to see what I can actually do, because we started going way too fast on the way up there, which is kind of an expectable problem. A minimum throttle of 72%. Okay. And spool up time of 420. Blaze it. Does this have a spool up time listed? No. Cool. So I think I could actually set these to go off at that time. All right, so let's try this again. I have no idea where there's going to be cuts. It's going to be hilarious. All right. So we're going to start the engines at 5 seconds before to let them spool up. We are going to let ourselves rise to, I think, 100 meters per second vertical velocity before we tilt out very slightly and let gravity start doing the work, is the new plan. I don't know why... Oh, this is the wrong orbit info. God damn it. That's why. Here's the orbit info for us instead of for the target we don't have. There we go. That was a much better launch. Yeah, and you can see the thrust is fluctuating. All of the engine statistics fluctuate because it's realistic. Yay. Another runway back there. And, oh, I did say I'll pitch over by now. So we're just gonna kick over like this. Wait for the velocity to come to meet us, and then hold it. This would be a lot prettier with dynamic lighting. Alright, I'm gonna throttle down to about half. If you listen to a rocket launch, this is where they say throttle down for max Q, because we are about to pass through the Reynolds window. Wonder if, yeah, we can actually see. We have just passed through max Q, the period of maximum dynamic pressure when the forces placed on the vehicle by aerodynamics is the greatest. Which typically happens as the vehicle becomes supersonic, which we just went through. As you can see by the Mach number being 1.5. So after that, we can throttle ourselves back up. And these are going to start burning out soon. You're going to see the thrust kind of fall off as it gets closer. These type of engines don't tend to burn out all at once. They tend to just gently come down to a point where it's not worth having them around anymore. I'm not entirely sure what that number is going to be with this engine, because it kind of depends on how heavy it is. But I'm going to wait until it's at around 250 or 200 and break it off. There we go. We have got a little bit of overheating going on, so I'm going to pitch up a little bit and start throttling down. Basically, I do not want this part exploding. That would scrub the lunar landing, although at this point I think I would still just fly the capsule around the moon and call it a video. Because the reason it's overheating is the payload fairings not being there, which is an issue I don't currently know how to fix. These should have detached a while ago. That is a mistake. And I am actually going to shut down the center core to also reduce our thrust. Also something that Apollo missions actually did. Okay, now we are in space at the moment, for the record, so I have long missed the chance to do this. I should also be looking at our inclination, which is actually looking fairly good. And the space mission music has kicked in. Yay. I'm actually going to thrust below the horizon we want to go sideways fast right now, not up anymore, because we're already going rather high up. Although, you know, I do want to keep a decent time to apogee, so I'm going to try and pitch to maintain that at around 2 minutes. Yeah, our acceleration is going crazy right now, by the way. If these Kerbals were humans, they would be having a bad time, but Kerbals are nuts. And I should be pitching up to control. I'm looking at this number and trying to keep it reasonably low because I know the next stage doesn't have a ton of thrust to pick us up with. But these engines are burning out here, so... Yep. So I'm going to set this back and then fire our separation and then ignite these. And it seems one of them has failed to ignite. They all managed to build up thrust, and I'm going to turn on the RCS because we are way off course at the moment. I don't know if these gimbal. We are going to spin quite badly, so I'm going to turn this guy off. Yeah, this engine failed to ignite. Another realistic thing that this game does, you do not have a 100% chance to ignite the engine. So this engine has failed entirely, and I disabled this one because the thrust asymmetry was making it uncontrollable. So we're within half a degree of the moon, which is pretty good. I believe you need to be within half a degree of inclination to the moon to be able to actually intercept it. On the other hand, this says negative and this says positive, so for all I know, the angle is totally wrong and we are somewhat screwed. If we look at the map, we can click on the moon and set it as target. And we can see that we are horribly not inclined correctly. So if we go back, if I can roll myself back to even, that would be cool. I'm actually going to switch to general stability assist and start pitching up a little bit, because we are definitely going to drop below the apogee, which is okay. This is also a thing real rockets do, but it is just highly inefficient, and I would like to start doing it earlier so we don't lose so much. And I would like to find the direction that fixes this node. So if I pitch this way, or yaw this way, yeah, this is fixing our node's direction, so I'm going to pitch maybe towards here, looking at the navigation ball, and hold it there to try and get us closer to here. The slower you're going when you fix this, the better. So I kind of have to balance three factors: going close enough to forward that we actually have delta V left to do stuff, although I don't even think we're making that at this point, because this flight has been a giant screw-up. Again, my first time playing the game in a long time, and I am playing RP1. That is, like, very far from how people are supposed to play this. But I have to balance going fast, pointing forward enough that we keep going faster and stay in space. Excuse me. Pointing up enough that we don't fall back into the atmosphere before we make it, which I don't think I'm currently doing. And pointing left enough, I guess, here, that we are generally making it towards the node. Like that our angle to the moon is getting smaller. If this launch doesn't work, the solution is going to be basically add a third stage. So replace this stage with a slightly smaller one that uses more powerful engines than this, and then add another stage here that uses maybe one of these engines. Which will again make us look a little bit more like Apollo. What can I say? Apollo is a good flight plan. Also, just for fun, if we look at the map, we should be able to see here is our probe, in other words, the first stage as it's falling. And you can see here we are communicating with Cape Canaveral still on this green link, and that is the direction our antenna is pointing. Because you do actually have to set when you have these antenna, where the fuck is it? Like another reason I added the omnidirectionals, when you use these, you do actually have to plan where you want to point it, which is kind of annoying. But anyway. Since we are in space, I couldn't press the "We are in space" button, and actually I think I'm going to do that. That'll save us a little bit of weight. And we should see these solar panels fold out, even though that we don't. And we see them extend in the incorrect direction. Another bug fix. Nifty. Just out of curiosity, since I'm 90% sure this launch is not going to work out looking at the numbers, where is my solar panel on this stage? It's really hard to see in the dark. There it is. This one deployed automatically, and it deployed at the incorrect angle. So I have lots of fixes to do with the solar panels. My trajectory could obviously use work because we are falling back to Earth right now. I obviously need a very long time. Well, honestly, no, I don't need that much time because theoretically these engines should not fail. The mean time between failures is a year, and this just happened to fail out of the gate. But that is not the reason that we have failed this flight. We have failed this flight because of incompetence. So if we click on far again, we can see the atmospheric density, but Earth's atmosphere starts in this game at about 120 kilometers. Or 140, because that music was the transition. Thank you for making me a fool. So we are going to start burning up in the atmosphere. What I am going to do is shut off the engines and press the abort key to detach the service module. It has RCS. Does it? Can I We should turn descent mode on. We should... Do you not have reaction control thrusters? Well, that's going to be interesting. Could have sworn this thing had reaction control. I might have to add that in because this is going to be an interesting time. So I have aborted the flight and we are hopefully going to try and land. Let me cheat. Hang on. Yeah, stuff's starting to explode from atmospheric heating. We are pointed in the entirely wrong direction and we're going to explode. Definitely need something. Alright, everybody's dead because we cannot point the heat shield forward. This is why we test things, ladies and gentlemen. Alright. Very cool game. I'm glad that it screws me over a little bit. Because it is funny to screw me over a little bit. Okay. Extend panel. Why is this the default attachment of this panel? That is also incorrect. There we go. This should be the default. And up here on the service module, this should be the default. Is that so hard? I guess it is, because that is also not the default. How about this? No. Are you happy? Whatever, I'll live with it. It's fine. Alright, so this panel should extend here. This one shouldn't. And panel 9 should extend here. This one shouldn't. Basically, I want these arrays to be different on the landing module so that they don't extend while we're in space and break. That would be bad. Their batteries will be good enough. Okay, so that was problem 1. Problem 2, this doesn't really have the burn time, but I kind of have learned that I dislike this stage anyway. God damn it. So I'm going to remove this, I'm going to remove these, I'm going to remove the tanking on these. And we are going to replace this setup with some higher thrust engines. Actually, we're going to do another thing first. We're going to move this stage off to the side for the moment. I am building a 7.2 meter tank. I don't know why I removed that. This is for the RCS. We're basically going to build a tank that looks like this. That has... I kind of like the Nerva. I want to keep one. So Nervas are cool. So let's find a Nerva. How does this do? 4-minute burn time, 2,000 meters per second. Can I do better? What's the impulse of these? 850, 900, 828. All right. This is 850. So Nerva 1. We're going with this. And we're going to have to set up a decoupling for it. But since... No. Where's my procedural decoupler? I'm not going to be stupid. Is this actually procedural? I feel like it's not. Hello? Making my life complicated. Since I can't apparently get fairings to work, I'm just going to live with not having fairings. Alright, and you're going to have to deal with it. I'm sorry. We're going to stick this underneath that guy. We'll figure out the engine situation later, but I will upgrade this to 10. I will upgrade this to 7.2. So this is all theoretically correct. And I'm going to bring this down in length like that. So it's roughly equal to before. And I'm going to add more of these RCS blocks to go here and here. So we have control. And then we're going to stick on... where can I put a... So I have to... Oh wait, no, there's procedural avionics here, isn't there? Yeah. So that should be fine, but I'm going to upgrade this to control like 1,000 tons just preemptively. All right. So this is a stage. Middle click to show test flight. Yeah, it's very reliable. Speaking of which, though, I do need my separation motors on this guy. So I'm going to take this. For the record, yes, I do keep misclicking buttons and not getting stuff right. And I am going to have to fix the staging again, and it is going to be tedious, and I am sorry. This is just kind of how things are when you are playing Realism Overhaul and you have to be a stickler for details, except the fucking interstage fairings that don't work. They're just pissing me off because it looks disgusting and it doesn't play well with anything, but I cannot make it work. Or do I have to... Hang on, last try. Idea. Does this one work? Like, it seems to know what it's doing here. So if I do this, do I have to, like, add... Yeah, okay, I think this is it. Yes. That is not how you are supposed to work. No. like this. God damn it. Hang on. Okay, I figured out how it should theoretically work. It is just not behaving itself nicely with that. But maybe if I now use the interstage fairing properly, now that I think that I have figured it out. See, you can see me figuring things out and learning how to play the game again. Isn't that fun? And if we attach the fairing half now, yes. All right. Yep, you know what? That's good enough. All right, so now we actually have a fairing, which is pretty nice. I'm going to set this to have 0 fairing node. Oh, I don't care then. It's fine. It's going to be fine. So we now have this fairing, and I'm going to have to fix it for all the others. But we have a fairing, and inside of the fairing, we have the Nerva. So let's just check the staging on this part real quick. We have... I don't even know what the coupler that is. Is that up here? Yes, it is. Speaking of which, I'm going to pull this thing down. We are putting some form of control system on this. Because it is extremely evident that we need to be able to control it during landing for what I consider obvious reasons. And apparently this doesn't actually come with its own control system, which I thought it did. So that's kind of rude. So let's just stick some RCS thrusters. Like you can even see the thruster apertures and whatever. We're going to stick some RCS thrusters like here on the docking port. And then we're going to stick... Should we stick more on? Nah, it's fine. We don't need that much control. But we do need to fill it up with the correct fuel, which I am going to set to be something good. Because why would I use bad fuel when I can use good fuel? All right. So now we should have some ability to control our descent or our trajectory during descent. And then if I can put this back on, yes, I am happier about that situation. And if we go here, we can stick fairing pieces on here, yes. All right. I feel stupid now, but... EK, why are you... Ah, this is why the fairing pieces are the wrong size. I see. There. And I would like to set the base size now to 7.2, because that's what the rest of this is built around. So when I close the fairing, it actually matches. That's what was going on. See, I'm understanding so many things. I am relearning so much. Okay, so from the top, we enable this. Parachutes, sure, fire that, yeah. Don't know what this decouples, that's kind of scary. This is for the ascent engine, this is for the descent engine, that's fine. This is for the propulsion system, cool. So this stage is for releasing, like separating these two. So that separates that, this, that guy, this, those motors, and this. I feel like that should be a different stage, actually. Put this here. I would like to find where we stage these fairings. So these fairings should go in this group. I think they changed the fairing icon on me. All right. Then these fairings should go in that group too, actually. Thinking about it. This is going to create so much space debris, and I do not give a shit. Then down here... So, okay, this separates all of that. Then we separate this and pull off this stage, which means these fairings should still be under there. No, actually. That, yes. Ullage for this engine, so these two need to be swapped. And this detaches at the same time this. Okay. I am now happy with that. So this is our third stage. And I'm just gonna casually move this up as far as I'm allowed to, and then zoom out. Because I know this is gonna be a problem, grab the command module and move it up as far as I'm allowed to. Then look the other way and move it up pretty goddamn far. Alright, now here... I think this is actually too far, but I do not care. This... whatever. Oh, jeez. Right, so next we need the adapter stage. That means that this base should actually be our 7.2 meter. And our top should also be 7.2, and we should reduce the height a little bit until it stops ballooning. Or fuck it, whatever, who cares? So this is the next stage. This is going to be stage 3. And for this, we are going to need some efficient engines, but not as efficient as the last ones, because that was an epic failure. So we are going to use the B4s here. There's so many engines, gosh. Hang on. I would like to filter by resource and pick something using... No, I have to select the pairing. Oh, gosh. Is there really no way to filter it like this? There should be a way to filter it like this. It's kind of rude that there's not. But okay, fine. I wanted to be smart, but it doesn't let me figure out how. You know what? Let's use the J2. J2X, that sounds good. Let's make a cluster of J2Xs. That sounds like a good time to me. And we're going to fill it for the J2X. Also, we're going to fill this for the J2X. So now this should have some pretty good fuel. Yep, happy with that. This actually has enough thrust-to-weight ratio to lift itself, this Nerva, which kind of surprises me. Maybe we should enlarge that stage. Let's make it 15 meters tall. Yeah, that's a great idea. And I'm only now realizing I have probably... No, I haven't forgotten. I'm smart. Alright. So now that has a little bit less thrust-to-weight ratio issues and a little bit more delta V. Now this is going to have a good time. And now we can mount this like so. And then put some fairing halves on it. Then we have to fix the fairings. Yay! There we go. Alright, checking the rest of the staging now. So we recently validated up here somewhere. Yeah, the Nerva fires... This is totally wrong. Alright, so these fire at the correct time with the Nerva. What? Okay, so this needs to go in the new stage. This decoupler needs to go into a stage before that. Jesus Christ, I hate how many stages I'm ending up with here. Probably a new stage and probably a new stage for this. Right, so I'll edge this. Ignite the Nerva. No, what the hell? Where's this? These are these engines. These guys are in stage 9. So we ullage this, ignite, and then ignite the Nerva. These are the ullage motors for the engine way down there somewhere. Where are these the engines that I'm looking for? These guys. The second set need to go off with this decoupler. Jesus. Okay. Scrolling down. These separation motors go off with this decoupler. And then these ullage motors go off in this stage. I do not know what this decoupler is. Actually, I do. It goes here. What in the fresh hell has happened here? This engine, those engines. These are the separation engines for a decoupler that I have lost that is in here. Yeah, you. Where are you? Hang on. You. Make you smaller. Where are you? You are up here. Why are you there? Jesus Christ. I have definitely missed something at some point if this is here. This should be in this stage alongside these engines. Right. Just wait, and then this fires before this. Yes. Then these are supposed to provide ullage for the pack of 4 liquid engines that I am completely not finding. Are they here? Jesus Christ, Kerbal. Put your shit in the right place. Staging is such an important and such an annoying part of this game. It's like I have once again lost there. So this goes above this. Then we come down here. These motors fire. These 2 decouplers fire. These fairings fire. Cool. Alright, then down here, these separate. These separate. What fairing is that? What are you? Okay. These 2 things need to happen at the same time as this thing, which is in stage 10. Cool. Really hoping I get something right this time. That separates that. That ignites that. This ignites that. This looks good. Or at least this looks better. And now we have substantially more delta V. Not actually enough for my liking. I'm gonna make this a little bit larger. And then I'm gonna make this a little bit larger. That's looking a little bit more like it. Still don't know if this is enough for our moon mission, but at least now we are looking in the realm of good. And we are once again under the floor. God damn it, dude. Okay, you know, I would be really nifty if you could just, like... Sorry. Now I can't click it. It'd be really nifty if this part could just, like, not be so low. You know? There we go. Yeah, there. Now you're not under the floor. All right. You finally ready to give this another launch? I'm pretty sure time passes while I'm in the assembly building, by the way. Or maybe it doesn't, because this is still good. Nifty. All right, so we're going to follow generally the same or similar launch plan to last time, because now we have a second stage with substantially higher thrust. So we should be able to get at least very close to orbit, very much so easier. And I'm noticing the Nerva stage's thrust and burn time are absolutely pathetic now, but I'm just going to clear that fine, and I'm missing my launch window as we speak. But it's okay. I'm just watching how these side tanks are draining. The flow priority is correct, so it is draining appropriately. But I am wondering if I need to fix the staging on them. Because it looks to me like these are going to drain before the solid. So I'm actually going to do a quick audible and flip that. And okay, we've gone a little bit higher than I did before, but that's all right. Talking vertical speed. These actually burn out at like the same time. No, they don't. These last for a little while longer. That's good. Note to self if we need another flight. Move the crossfeed tanks lower. I was going to do a little bit of a throttle down so we go supersonic a little bit higher up, but because I missed my pitch over, or I guess my yaw over, it kind of just was fine. And once again, when this passes down to about 250 knots, we separate that because they accelerate slower than the rocket. They no longer lift themselves. And now we're entirely under the power of our 7 F-1B engines. There was an American rocket called the Nova that had a first stage a lot like this. So we have built something absolutely gargantuan here, is the point. Why are we back to looking at this? God damn it. Stop saving the wrong thing. We are losing time to apoapsis again. I dislike that. This is the first stage where we are trying to build that. So I'm going to manually pitch this thing up. Try to hold it at around 45 degrees above the horizon. So this number goes up instead of down. We are still low enough to be suffering atmospheric effects, but because the atmosphere is getting thinner, as we keep going higher, I think it's increasingly a smaller problem. So that's why I'm not worried about pitching so far away, because this is creating a lot of drag, because we're traveling at something like this angle into the air, which presents a lot of surface area, so a lot of drag. Once again, I'm going to target the moon. Actually, this is now a great thing. So relative inclination is 5 degrees and going down. I am happy with that. When our thrust to rate ratio here, or actually, yeah, it doesn't make a difference. When our thrust to rate ratio hits 3, I'm going to shut down the center engine again. Or actually, it didn't even start, did it? Wow. Who needs center engines anyway? But we are going to throttle down. As far as the engines let us, if we go to 0, we're fucked, but... if I was really clever, I could have set up action groups to like disable pairs of engines. Liquid oxygen reserves are low. No, they're not. It's just that this stage has all of the fuel and this stage doesn't have very much. It's fine. Alright, engines flamed out, so we're actually in a pretty good spot. Next stage, hopefully, separates just fine, except for these for some reason. And we ignite just great. That was not the correct way to ignite these, by the way. I should have been paying more attention to them, but it's okay. These actually have a lot of ignitions too, so we could have made something work with them. And here I am okay with our time to apogee kind of dropping a little bit, so I'm going to go back to pointing forward. Even though this is going to stop fixing our inclination, I'm okay with it for the sake of having an efficient descent. Because the other factor is the Pythagorean theorem, right? Like, when we make our big burn to go towards the moon, and actually I'm going to press the I'm in space button to get rid of that thing. When we make our big burn to go from Earth orbit to the moon, it's going to have a lot of velocity going forwards, and the relative velocity to fix our angle to the moon going this way is not going to be that big. So we're going to go at an angle like that instead of like that, which according to Pythagorean theorem is much smaller than the sum of these two angles. So I'm not too worried about that situation. Actually, I'm going to roll ourselves flat-ish to the horizon, just for my own sake of being able to navigate. Like, up goes up and down goes down now. And then I'm going to take manual control and pitch us down a little bit again. And down a little bit and left a little bit, with the intention of continuing to fix our inclination just a bit. And now we actually are going to get pretty close to low Earth orbit. Low Earth orbital velocity is about 7,600 meters per second. We're currently at 42, and we have 3,500 meters per second. So theoretically, we could make it, but we are at a little bit of an inefficient path. So I'm fairly happy with this. I'm still kind of going to pay attention to our time to apogee. I don't want to let it get too low, but since we are so high up and it will take us a while to fall, If you look at our trajectory, we are making a very wide parabola, right? We're going to go very far like that. It's going to take us a while. Um, that means I'm kind of okay if we go down a little bit, but I don't want this to get too far below like 45 seconds. So I'm going to start pitching up just a bit to try and stabilize it. Not too far, like here, 15 degrees above the horizon. We are making a very long burn with this. As we get close to actual orbit, I might just drop back on point prograde. Speaking of which, I am going to steer a little bit more left to fix this a little bit quicker. But for right now, I want to make sure that we gain enough altitude. We're going up too fast again. That we can use enough of this second stage or third stage if we need to. Yeah, well. We are gaining time to apogee very quickly now, so I'm dropping the nose way further down. Because our thrust to weight ratio is getting very high. We are accelerating quite a lot. 19 meters per second. Stop giving me this warning when my stage is just low on fuel. I'll admit it, that is kind of a nice warning, but I'm going to pre-select, if I may, just peek inside the ship, and I'm going to click this and pin it. Because I would like to do this correctly, because if this does not ignite, we are going to have a bad time. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on this ignition chance when it comes time to light it. Right, align it back up. We are at 3 degrees. We've got a few seconds left in the burn, but look at our periapsis go. And our time to apogee. Yeah, look how close we are to being in orbit. This is very much like the Apollo missions, actually. You can see our first stage is burning. We could actually... screw it. Let's switch to it. I have done missions before. I did a campaign where I recovered all of my first stages. So I launched like this, where I can switch in time to take control, and I would have like air brakes and point this correctly and land it in the ocean, which was pretty fun, I won't lie. But we can watch this burn up. And if I do actually manage to cut this into pieces, this would make an excellent cut. The re-entry of the first stage. It would actually be a really funny cut to cut it here, because this single fairing adapter is really light. There we go, free camera, so much better. This fairing adapter is really light, and it has a very wide surface area, so it's very draggy. And if we look at the F3 menu, you can see it endured 87 Gs of deceleration, which is like car crash, probably for several seconds, and got slow enough that it wouldn't burn up. This is how stuff survives re-entry. So it is going to fall at about 50 meters per second, going largely sideways for 23 kilometers.